Hey guys, Wade Willis here doing my playthrough of Umineko, and this is part 9 of my playthrough. And a lot of you guys had suggested having the voice actors and getting that mod in there for this. I finally figured it out, so you guys are not going to have to suffer hearing me do Maria's oohing cause consistently throughout the rest of the game. And I think it'll allow me to go a lot quicker through this. It'll just be better for everyone overall. My voice will be saved, and yeah, it'll be a lot faster. So excited to make this adjustment. Thanks to all the people who had suggested and gave me tips on how to do this, because I am not very computer savvy, so bit of a it was a bit of a process for me to get to this point. So setting up to this point, they got the letter from Beatrice, kind of stating like the rules and everything. Jessica is like super upset seeing how the parents are so money hungry and stuff, and yeah, we're just seeing a lot of divisions. The parents are stressed out because all of them are broke basically, and now they think some other person, a lot of them don't believe it's actually Beatrice, but they think some other entity is trying to hold them ransom. So excited. We're getting into some real serious stuff now. So let's get into it, guys.
ニュースをやってないかな。
George Niki started walking over to the corner parlor where the television was. He hadn't called me over, and I really couldn't have cared less where the typhoon was on the sea now. So without going over to the television, I loitered around the window.
そんなに風は出てなさそうだけど、海の上はひどいのかしらね。
Okay.
天気予報では暴風警報も聞いてたんだけど。
Casual conversation about the rain.
キリエさんか。
キリエ。
大人たちの積もる話はどんな感じなんすか？
She seemed to catch the sarcasm. Kyrie-san shrugged.
この胃の痛くなる話は徹夜で続くのかしら。嫌になるわ。
まあ、せいぜいよろしく。じい様の財産分配について、ハゲタカごっこをお楽しみくださいってんだ。
Oh my god.
最低の気分だぜ。
それに関しては同感よ。バトラ君みたいに席が外せるなら、でもそうもいかない。たとえ発言権がなくてもね。
Yeah, she's kind of in a bad
パートナー
situation.
も大変よ。
Kyrie-san took a deep breath, smiling bitterly. That's right. They probably wouldn't let Kyrie-san speak since she only married into the family. Still, Dad's partner, she's had no choice but to stay by his side and support him. She's probably had to bear the full brunt of his mental pressures much more than me. I wasn't going to apologize, but realizing that I'd spoken too harshly, I cut the sarcasm for the time being.
どんな感じなんすか？相変わらず謎の魔女ベアトリーチェの話題で持ちきりですか？
まあね。あの人たちは、おじい様が亡くなった時の遺産分配について、兄弟4人で話をまとめようと、ずっと密約を重ねてきた。そこへ未知の5人目が現れて、話をややこしくしようっていうんだから、穏便な話のわけもないわ。互いを罵り合ったり、かと思えば共闘しようってことになったり。夏日姉さんでなくても頭痛がしてくるところよ。
On the other hand, they all want a larger portion than the other siblings, so they're all rivals. But on the other hand, they don't want 1 yen to be snatched up by anyone other than the siblings, so they're all allies. I hadn't been told the details, but the siblings were apparently discussing how to protect their shares under various situations, setting up a ceasefire agreement and rules to prevent anyone from getting an unfair advantage, even preparing to resort to legal action if absolutely necessary. That they would go as far as to preserve their shares was beyond disgusting. That they would go this far to preserve their shares was so beyond disgusting that you had to just acknowledge their resilience.
ってことは ベアトリーチェはじい様からの資格ってとこですかね。自分抜きで遺産の分配なんて話を勝手に進めてた息子たちに一泡吹かせたかったんだろうぜ。
何者かしらね、ベアトリーチェって。自称してることが全て本当なら、今日まで誰にも知られずにいた謎の人物で、しかもおじい様の隠し黄金の存在を知っていて、その上当主の指輪まで委ねられている。相当に信頼された人物ね。
さすがにほうきにまたがった魔女だとは思わないっすけど。でも魔女と呼ぶに値する怪人物であることは間違いないっすね。
That's a good point.
マリアちゃんがそのあたりのことを詳しく話してくれればいいのだけど、みんな小さい子にがっつきすぎだわ。すっかり怯えてしまって聞けるものも聞けなくなってしまった。あの人たち北風と太陽とか読んだことないのかしら。
I have not read that.
確かなのはマリアがベアトリーチェと名乗る人物から手紙を受け取ったこと。自分で現れて直接話せばいいものを、手紙を託して今もどこかに身を潜めているっていうシャイな怪人物ですけどね。
It is, yeah, I am kind of curious why she didn't just appear. Maybe she doesn't have enough magic powers yet to be able to, like, appear for a long time in front of people? I don't know.
ねえバトラ君、ベアトリーチェなんて人物が本当にいると思う？
さあ、あくまでも偽名じゃないっすかね。じい様の代理人としてその妄想の中の魔女の名を名乗ることを許されたとか。
ううん、そうじゃなくて、今この六軒島には全部で18人いるの。19人目が存在すると思う？
Are there really a full 18 people on the island right now? Wondering about that, I began counting on my fingers, and it really did come out to that many.
19人目が存在すると思うって。
What?
どういう意味ですか？
言葉通りの意味よ。マリアちゃんに傘を貸した人物は私たち18人の中にはいないらしい。なら19人目がいて、その人物がマリアちゃんに傘を貸したと思うのが妥当じゃない？
Yeah, duh.
ま、そうなりますね。
Was 19 in the riddle?
ならその人物は今どこにいるの？少なくとも雨が降り出した瞬間には島にいた。そしてその後はどんどん天気は悪化して、とても船なんか出すとなれば、その人物はまだ島の中にいて、どこかで雨宿りをしていなくてはならない。私たち誰の目にも触れずね。
Yeah, that is super
確か
alarming.
に。俺たちは屋敷やゲストハウスの中を勝手にうろつき回ってましたが、誰も19人目なんかには会ってないわけですよね。でもまあこれだけの広さのある島ですし、屋敷やゲストハウス以外に雨宿りできるところだってあるのかも。
About this time, I began to realize what direction Kirie-san's suspicions were taking us in. Kirie-san was denying that a 19th person existed. Beatrice was one of us 18. In other words, she thought someone we knew well was tricking us.
ベアトリーチェが自称する通りなら、その人物は間違いなく最高の賓客よ。おじい様が信頼する最高の腹心。そんな人物をおじい様が歓待しないわけがない。お屋敷に迎え入れないわけはないのよ。でも私たちは誰も見ていない。
So this is a very logical way to look at it, except that they're like you're not factoring in that a witch could exist.
待ってくださいよ。それはちょいと請求な推理じゃないですか？確かに誰の目にも触れてはいないけれど、だからって19人目を否定することにはならないんじゃないですか？何かの理由があって こっそり上陸してずっと隠れているのかも。悪魔の証明ってやつっすよ。いることを証明するのはたやすい。ベアトリーチェってやつが俺たちの前に現れて挨拶すりゃ解決する。でも19人目がいないことを証明するのは不可能っすよ。
バトラ君の推理の仕方は悪くないわ。現在の状況では19人目の存在を認めるにも否定するにも情報が足りない。でもね、チェス盤をひっくり返して考えるとほぼ19人目はありえないって断言できちゃうのよ。
Can they though? Spin the chessboard around was one of Kirie-san's favorite phrases. I've been influenced by those words and I use them myself from time to time. When you get stuck trying to find a move in chess or shogi, then by spinning the board around and looking at it, everything from your opponent's standpoint, you can often see a strategy that will give you the upper hand. It means turning things around and putting yourself in your opponent's shoes.
いい？仮に19人目の人物としてベアトリーチェが実在したとして、その人物は誰にも知られることなくこっそりとこの島に上陸しずっと隠れていた。何かの理由があってね。ならどうしてわざわざ姿を現してマリアちゃんに手紙を渡したの？
It really was a contradiction. If they had some reason for hiding themselves, then they should have stayed hidden the whole time. But even so, they had appeared openly in front of Maria.
それはほらマリアも言ってた。メッセンジャーにされたって言ってたじゃないですか。マリアが一番年下で素直そうだったからじゃ。
That's
メッセン
solid.
ジャーなんて必要なの？手紙を親族会議の席上に送りたかったら郵送すればいいだけの話よ。4人の兄弟全員に郵送すれば黙殺することもできない。手紙を持参してこっそり手渡す理由がないのよ。
確かになんだかおかしな話っすね。
そもそもベアトリーチェが存在していてその存在をアピールしたいならみんなの前に堂々と姿を現せばいいだけの話なのに現れず、マリアちゃんという小さな子を通しておぼろげな輪郭だけでその存在を主張しようとする曖昧さ、矛盾。もっと考えて。
See, now how I look at this, guys, if Beatrice doesn't want them to win this riddle, so if she went and showed herself to them right away, they'd realize, like, oh, this riddle is for real, and, like, let's try to solve this in the amount of time we need to solve it. However, if she does it by going to the least reliable person, Maria, and giving a letter, then they fight amongst themselves. There's all this debate whether it's true or not, and they start second-guessing each other. It's actually genius in Beatrice's for Beatrice to do it this way, because you're pitting them against each other as opposed to them seeing that you really existed. Them like, okay, let's band together and get this gold.
マリアちゃんの前に姿を現し19人目の存在を印象づけるという点と、にもかかわらず今この瞬間も私たちの前に姿を現さず隠れ続けている点、これらの矛盾、これを念頭に置いた上でチェス盤をひっくり返すの。つまり19人目の人物としてベアトリーチェがいると印象づけたい人物の目論見は何かよ。
姿を隠したい人物ならその存在をアピールするわけがない。そして姿を現したい人物なら手紙を託すなんて遠回しをするわけがない。ってことは
簡単よ。ベアトリーチェは18人の中にいるのよ。だからこそ18人以外の人物が存在するような幻想を作り出しているのよ。これ見よがしな19人目のアピール。それで得をするのは姿を潜めた19人目じゃない、すでにいる18人の方なのよ。もちろん この推理は穴だらけ。いくつかの前提がひっくり返るだけですぐに崩れる脆いものだけど、私はほぼ間違いないと見てるわ。
This is starting to feel pretty creepy. Someone lent Maria the umbrella and handed her the letter. Supposedly none of the 18 did this, and yet Beatrice was hidden among those 18. What was this person planning, hiding their true form or pretending to be Beatrice?
マリアちゃんの自作自演も疑ったんだけど、文章の内容が非常に手が込んでて、マリアちゃんが自前で用意したとは考えがたい。でもマリアちゃんが何者かと共謀している可能性も否定でき。
おいおい、マリアは9歳のお子様だぜ。誰と何を共謀するってんだよ。しかも愚直で真面目で素直なあの性分だぜ。
ええ、私もマリアちゃんの性分はよく理解しているわ。でもだからこそあり得ると思うの。魔女に憧れ、その存在を盲信している夢見がちな少女。そこにベアトリーチェと名乗る人物が現れて魔女だと名乗ったら、彼女はそれを、
つまりあの肖像画のごついドレスを着て変装すればマリアを騙すことは難しくないと。
その論法になっちゃうと私たち女性陣はみんな疑われちゃうことになるんだけどね。とにかくマリアちゃんが何者に出会ったのか、それの詳細を聞くことがこの謎を解く一番にして最も身近な鍵なのよ。しかしその鍵は少女の心の奥に堅くなに閉ざされてしまったわ。みんなが頭ごなしに魔女の存在を否定し、一体その人物は誰なのかと問い詰めすぎた。マリアちゃんは当分大人には心を開かないでしょうね。
Oh, so she's gonna have Battler try to squeeze it out of her, I bet. In the gym hall in front of the portrait of Beatrice, Maria was sobbing.
誰もね、マリアがベアトリーチェに会ったことを信じてくれない。ベアトリーチェとくれた手紙も見せたのに、それでも信じてくれないの。
Poor Maria. Beatrice might appear to her again.
とにかく鍵はマリアちゃんが握ってるわ。ベアトリーチェが18人の中にいるのか19人目なのか、それを知る鍵をね。
マリアは頑固だぜ。あいつへそを曲げるとなかなか機嫌を直さないからな。
大人の私より子供のバトラ君の方が機嫌を直せる確率は高そうよ。彼女の機嫌が直ったら聞いてみて。遺産分配がどうのこうのって話には関心ないけど、こんな王道洋館ミステリーみたいなシチュエーションにはワクワクしちゃわない？マリアちゃんに手紙を渡した人物は一体誰なのか。知的好奇心がうずくわ。
うんざりするような金の話に付き合わされてもワクワクとは実にタフなことだぜ。大人はすげえや。
I wouldn't go that far. I shrugged exasperatedly. But I did notice something. Kurie noticed how dejected I was after overhearing our parents' turbulent discussion, and was probably trying to clear the air. At the very least, I recovered enough to voice my complaints. She wasn't my real mother, so I never felt like calling her mom. But it did make me feel like she's a real adult.
おうガキども、ここにいたのか。キリエも長え化粧直しじゃねえか。俺も次からは化粧をしてくることにするぜ。
ごめんなさい。女の化粧は長いのよ。どう？兄弟水入らずの話し合いは。
さぞや和気あいあいとしてるだろうよ。
Yeah.
一度頭を冷やそうってことで小休止さ。こりゃ夜通しになりそうだぜ。泣けてくれ。
His way of talking hadn't changed, but he couldn't completely hide his fatigue. I couldn't say I was sympathetic, but he looked pitiful compared to his normal energetic self.
しかしひでえ雨だな。ゲストハウスに戻るのも嫌になるぜ。夏日姉さんが屋敷で泊まれるよう準備してくれ。どうする
？3階になった時に考えてもいいんじゃない？部屋に戻る体力もなくなってたら、その時はお世話になりましょうよ。
そうだな。その時に考えりゃいいか。バトラーはどうする？
俺がいちゃお邪魔だろうからよ。気使って向こうに戻るぜ。
そうか。すぐ戻るのか？
さあな。一人で戻ったって寂しいしよ。子供全員で揃って帰ることにするぜ。
そうだな。そうするといい。それで、バトラー。お前、今夜はそうは簡単には寝ないだろう。
多分、いとこたちとおしゃべりしてるだろうからな。夜更かししそうな気配はあるぜ。それがどうかしたのかよ。
そうか。もし、大人たちの会議が終わってお前がまだ起きてたら。
なんだよ。柄にもねえな。
Apparently, Kurie-san was thinking the same thing. What are you talking about? She asked him in a small voice. It looked like Kurie-san didn't have a clue what Dad meant either.
キリエにも聞いてもらいたい話だ。後で話すから、今は聞くな。頼む。
I don't know anyone who neglected the concept of family as much as this old bastard, and now he's saying we're gonna have a talk as a family? Both Kurie and I couldn't help but get wide-eyed.
そうビビった顔すんなよ。ビビりてえのは俺の方なんだ。何しろ。
At that point, he swallowed his words for an instant, even though putting on airs of importance wasn't much like my dad.
気持ち悪いぜ、親父。今、家族は全員揃ってるじゃねえかよ。もったいぶらずに言えよ。
Yeah, why wouldn't you just say it there?
俺は多分、今夜、殺されるだろうな。
Oh, shit. I didn't expect... I thought it was going to be about his money problems. Dad's expression, brightly illuminated by the lightning, was burned into my eyes. Dad's face, which always looked so sure of itself, and which always wore a taunting expression, was strangely frail in a way I couldn't really explain. It was so worn out that he looked like a different person.
は何言ってんだよ、柄でもね。
同感よ。どうしたの？急に弱気ね。あなたらしくもない。
俺も化粧直しに行ってくる。
This freaking guy.
ついてくんなよ。
He's gonna go cry. Dad turned away weakly. After that, only Kurie and I were left, still wide-eyed.
なんだってんだ？今夜殺される？まさか、あの妙な手紙のせいで、親父ビビっちまったのか？連続殺人者の映画の見過ぎだぜ。
Kurie didn't answer my light-hearted words and continued to stare at my dad's disappearing back.
バトラ君はルドルフさんに今話せと言ったら話さず立ち去った。みんなに話すことがあると言い出しながら答えなかった。どうして？チェス盤をひっくり返す。すると
話すと言っておきながら話せない矛盾。なんすかね。親父側から見ると何か見えてきますか？
ええ、見えるわよ。話したいことがある。でも自分から言い出す勇気がない。だから追ってきて俺に話しかけて聞き出してくれが正解ね。ついてくるなも逆の意味よ。ついてきて俺を問い詰めてくれがまった く甘えん坊さんなんだから。
That is a child move.
いや、そういう推理でいいんすか？そんなんめちゃくちゃな。
名探偵や名刑事が男女の気持ちや心を推理できる？できないでしょ？異性の気持ちを探るのは何次元のトリックを暴くよりはるかに高度な技術なのよ。私に言わせれば名作推理小説より恋愛小説の方がよっぽど難解なミステリーなんだから。
はあ、そういうもんすかね。
私はあの甘えん坊さんと一緒にいるわ。普段は虚勢を張ってるけど、今夜はかなりの激論で疲れ切ってる。誰かに寄りかかりたい気持ちなんでしょうね。それに応えるのがパートナーの役目よ。
She seems like an awesome wife.
はあ、そりゃあお熱いことで。じゃあ、うちのクソ親父の世話をよろしく頼みますよ。
ええ、任せておいて。
I called out to Kiria's departing back.
え？何？
いや、ありがとよって。おかげで陰鬱な気分がだいぶ晴れたぜ。
ならよかった。コミュニケーションは大事ね。
I still think she wants to hook up with Battler, but after answering with a wink, Kiria-san followed after Dad. Natsui could be found in a dimly lit hallway. Now and then a thunder would crash, but this had no effect on Natsui's expression. She looked completely worn out. The discussion that just had taken place between the relatives in the dining hall was repeating itself inside Natsui's mind. Beatrice had proclaimed that in addition to the gold, all of the inheritance and property of the Ushiromiya family would be given to the person who could solve the riddle. In other words, she planned to undermine the absolute guarantee that Kraus, as the oldest brother, had to succeed as the family head. Originally, the other siblings had absolutely no chance to inherit the headship. To them, this proposal by Beatrice was extremely desirable. It was obvious that they would accept. There was no need to play a clumsy detective game. Natsui knew that the so-called 19th person Beatrice couldn't exist. Naturally, Beatrice was nothing more than a fictional character used to pass the message that Kinzo had written himself. As proof, Kinzo had remained stubbornly neutral as that letter's authenticity. He was completely ignoring these reckless claims, and he shouldn't be able to ignore that he had given up the head's ring. In short, Kinzo had wordlessly admitted that the letter held his own message. Most likely, one of the servants had given Maria the letter. Kinzo had probably worked out an elaborate plan where the dress for the portrait would be prepared, and someone, probably Shannon, would be made to wear it and deliver it, the letter, and the umbrella. By doing that, he could make it seem like the witch from the portrait actually existed. No, if anything, that was proof that Kinzo was behind this. In that case, it was the same as Kinzo trying to butt in on the siblings' private discussion. Then Kinzo, by announcing that he'd give everything to the person who solves the riddle, could weaken Krause's overwhelming advantage. Now it was certain. Kinzo had eavesdropped on the siblings' discussion in the parlor earlier that day, so he had known how Krause had staved off the attack by the other three. And to make the scales of the battle go back into balance, he had sent out the strange letter which benefited Krause's rivals. He was trying to push this crazy theory so that Rosa, who had a weak position among the siblings because of her age, would join with Ava and Rudolph. Then, with a 3-to-1 advantage, they'd be able to overwhelm Krause yet again and make their ridiculous theories get accepted by force. And by doing that, he gave them the power to resettle what had been once nearly decided conflict. They had now started repeatedly pressing Krause to pay them a large amount of money. Using the condition that all the siblings would guarantee Krause's position as a successor, talk about advance payments was being brought up again, despite having been rejected once. Of course, even without the story about hidden gold, the Ushiromiya family's store of wealth was vast. That store of wealth alone was more than enough. Even if the hidden gold was buried forever along with Kinzo's death, there would be more than enough to satisfy. Therefore, even if they weren't interested in the gold itself, Kinzo managed to instill a lifelong fear that, on the off chance that someone found the gold, that person would be granted the headship. And this Achilles heel would definitely be taken advantage of by someone sooner or later. The only person with this fatal weakness was the successor Kraus. The other siblings had found no, they had been told by Kinzo about something that only Kraus could lose, and they had thoroughly taken advantage of that. Natsui, as Kraus's only ally in this painful position, and his wife, wanted to fight alongside him. She kept trying to explain to him that the existence of the gold itself was a farce, and that there was no need for him to compromise. Kraus had always told Natsui. He had told all the siblings. He had always said that the hidden gold was nothing more than an illusion created by Kinzo. Therefore, Natsui had believed it as his wife, and had supported her husband on that foundation. Even so, Natsui's words couldn't reach Kraus. Even though Natsui had fought hard and had lent all of her strength, he continued to fight by himself and was trying to compromise with the other three siblings. Natsui sadly weakly wondered why she could not be of use to him, and then started getting angry. It had happened when everyone decided to take a short break to cool their heads. Natsui had flared up against Kraus. Enraged, she had asked why she could not be useful to him. He had then told her that he wanted to talk about something and invited her to a room that she was normally not allowed to enter. That room had been sealed with a heavy-looking padlock, and just looking at it gave her an uncomfortable feeling. Oh, this is ominous.
他の3人の言うことも、ベアトリーチェを名乗る不審人物の言うことも、何も気にかけることはありません。黄金など所詮はお父様が生み出したまやかし。それを見つけられることなどあるわけがない。あなたが跡継ぎであることは盤石です。何を恐れることがあるのです。
Kraus moved the padlock on the door. He then motioned for Natsui to enter.
入りたまえ。
何ですか？
I'm nervous.
見せたいものがある。君に初めて見せるものだ。
Natsui timidly opened the door with a dubious expression on her face. It was pitch black. She searched for a switch on the lights, but since it was her first time in the room, she didn't know where it was. Kraus entered behind her, pushing her in, and when he closed the door before turning on the lights, the two were swallowed up by the darkness. The only sound of Kraus locking the door rang through the dark.
これは何事ですか？明かりは？
今つける。待ちたまえ。
Just as he said, when Kraus pushed a switch on the room, a flickering light turned up and lit up the room.
それは？
The room had no windows, and at a glance it appeared to be empty. In the middle of a room was a small round table that had been set, and the lights had brightened up only that table as if it were leading a part in a play. On top of the table, a red tablecloth of elaborate design had been set out, covered with dust. And on top of that, something about the size of a grown man's arm had been set down. That something took Natsui's breath away. Oh.
凄まじい純度を持つ黄金のインゴットだよ。こいつがなければ誰も黄金伝説を信じはしなかった。
It was an ingot of solid gold. Even in the faint light, it sparkled with a noble and dignified glint.
こいつはまともなインゴットじゃない。このインゴットを鋳造したのが国内なのか国外なのか、それすらも私にはわからないんだ。
It took a high level of skill to make the purest of solid gold ingots, and in order to verify that purity, it was standard to have the original foundry and name of the bank that guaranteed it imprinted on the gold. However, this ingot did not have that kind of seal. This mysterious gold bar had come from an unknown foundry.
ここを見たまえ。怯えることはない。 こいつはただの金塊だ。
Natsui, following Krause's words, timidly approached the ingot.
そこだ。
Krause pointed to the surface of the ingot. Natsui concentrated on that section. Right there was a thin imprint of the one-winged eagle crest. Natsui's breath was taken away once and again.
そうだよ。これこそが親父がベアトリーチェに与えられたといい、保証人のマルソーの会長に任意で一つを抜き取らせて持ち帰らせ、財界のフィクサーたちを信用させたという伝説のインゴットなのだよ。方々に手を尽くして私が見つけた。他の兄弟たちより早くね。
そんな。じゃあお父様の黄金伝説は
実在する。
Dang.
後ろ宮金蔵が授けられたベアトリーチェの黄金は
そんな。
Sorry, guys.
本当にあるなんて。
Mitsui was shocked. Krause had always said that the Kinzo's gold was just a fabrication, so she had believed it as his wife. However, the reality was different. Since he held definite proof, he had been more certain than any other sibling that the legend of the gold was true. Because of this, Krause was deeply frightened at the possibility that someone other than himself would find the gold he'd failed to find, costing him everything. But to Natsui, this truth was more than enough to split open her heart. She had thought, as Krause's wife, she should be his closest confidant, which she held selflessly, which was why she had selflessly supported him, and yet he had hid this fact from her until today. Why?
そこまでに私はあなたの信頼に足りないというのですか。
Yeah, she ain't gonna
そ
take
うい
that
うつ
well.
もりはない。話す必要がなかっただけだ。
What?
あなたにとっては妻はその程度のものなのですか。
Oh,
落ち着きたまえ。劇場にすぐ駆られるのは君の悪い癖だ。
dang.
あなたがそうさせてるんじゃないですか。私は後ろ宮家に嫁ぎ、今日まであなたの妻として
What
仕
a
えてきました。
dick.
あなたのために生まれた家を捨て、身も心も捧げてお仕えしてきました。その報いがこれなんですか。そんなこと。
Yeah, I mean, it's understandable. Krause grimaced, looking annoyed. His expression effectively communicated how he disliked this part of Natsui, even if he didn't say it out loud. This guy is probably my least favorite in the
私
family.
はもうあなたの力になれそうもありません。
うん。それでいい。
Dude, what the f...
兄弟のトラブルを私が自分の力で解決する。
No.
君の力は借りんよ。
違います。これは後ろ宮家のトラブルです。確かに私にはこの身に家紋を刻むことが許されていません。でもあなたの妻です。なのに私には力添えする資格もないのですか。
Man, this voice acting is so good.
君を思えばこそあえて関わらせなかったのだ。
Okay, that's...
これ以上は頭痛に触るだろう。
Oh my god, this guy like starts saying something that it's like, I don't want to get you, risk getting you involved. If he said instead of the headache thing, like, because I worry for your safety, maybe he saves himself a bit. But then he has to make it like, oh, you're weak, kind of again. What a... Oh my god, this guy's a jabroni.
君は今夜はこれで休みたまえ。
Oh...
兄弟の話は兄弟でつける。君は関係ない。それだけだ。
You know, I didn't really like her much, but I feel bad for her. A dull headache tormented Natsui. No matter what medicine she took, no matter what scent she burned, it wouldn't heal. In fact, simply wandering alone through the dark corridors and listening to the sound of rain seemed to be a better cure. Oh, in a horror movie, that's the worst thing you could do. I may be Natsui, but I was never Ushiromiya Natsui. I have been despised and treated as a borrowed wound, and insulted when I couldn't even fill that role. Even so, I have tried properly to perform my duties as a wife, but now, even my husband has rejected me. I've done my best raising my daughter, as if it were the last job left to me. However, I've had no release for my anger and sadness, and they've caused me to subconsciously strain that relationship too. Because I've been excessively strict in Jessica's education, she dislikes me thoroughly. She despises me for having no interest in anything but grades. There is no longer anything I can do for the Ushiromiya family. No, that's no good. Despite it all, I must help my husband and beat back the schemes of the other greedy siblings. Yo, this is a good wife. I don't know what the hell's wrong with this guy. The family head won't be around much longer. Eventually, Kraus will succeed the head, and the next successor will be Jessica. Strictly speaking, the man who enters the family by marrying Jessica will be the next head. But it all comes to the same thing. I have to make Jessica an excellent successor whom everyone will accept as worthy to take over the Ushiromiya family. In the days to come, that greedy Ushiromiya Eva will probably be plotting to find some fault with the main family. And if it all goes as she plans, Jessica will be dragged from the succession with George set up in her place. It is regrettable, but George is a man, and even more, he has matured as a person. Compared to Jessica, who was right in the middle of her rebellious period, and whose grades are slightly below average, it can be seen at a glance who is more fit to succeed the head. In order to secure Jessica's position, I need to turn her into an excellent person. After doing that, I want to find her an excellent husband, worthy of the excellent person she will have become. A wonderful man who will truly accept Jessica and stay with her through all of life's joys and sorrows. Was Natsui trying to entrust her daughter with fulfilling some desire of her own? Natsui brought back to the days when she had no choice but to marry the Ushiromiya family because of that unavoidable fate. She had tried to block that from her memory. She had constantly forgotten it and had actively attended to life she be given as Ushiromiya Natsui. And in doing so, she built up a new life. But just now, it felt like all of that had been casually rejected.
何を考えて生きていけばいいのかわからない。
Natsui helplessly rested her head against the glass of the window. The glass, which was cool, thanks to the raindrops beating against it, felt somehow refreshing. Even though it should have been emotionless, right then it seemed to be the only thing that could understand Natsui. At that point, even if someone had appeared, Natsui didn't intend to pay any attention to them. But she did pay attention, because it was her beloved daughter.
母さんか。なんだよ、こんなところに。幽霊かと思ったぜ。
Just like this, her words were rough, and not all like a girl's. Instinctively, words of rebuke rose to Natsui's throat. However, their strength gave out, and they didn't escape her lips.
ジェシカ、ごめんね。母さんは頭痛がひどいの。そっとしといてくれる？
そう。
Jessica was seeing her mother in a position of feebleness for the first time, so she was considerably disconcerted. Until just now, she had been filled with contempt for all the parents, including her mother. But now those feelings had been completely swept away. Her mother's utterly exhausted face had wiped them all out. In its place, the words George had told her floated back up into her mind. Our parents are doing the best in their own way. And because of their family, and because their families are counting on them, they can't afford to keep everything pleasant and have a heavy responsibility to fight. Maybe her mother had been standing around in this dimly lit hallway because no one had tried to understand that in her. Jessica hated her mother. so she had no intention of speaking kindly to Natsui just because she was looking a bit frail. So when she attempted to speak kindly to her mother anyway, she had to clench her fists and gather up the words from deep in her heart.
ずいぶん立て込んだ話をしてるようじゃん。
お前には関係ありません。よそへ行っていなさい。
頭痛ひどい？あ、私、薬もらってこようか。
構わないで結構です。お願いだから、一人きりにして。
Natsui wasn't being cold. She just wanted her daughter to go far away so that she wouldn't have to bump against Natsui's own short temper. But there was no chance that Jessica would realize this. Jessica hung her head, looking sad. Seeing that expression, Natsui recognized the kindness that Jessica was trying to muster. She gave her head a small shake to drive her own unkind feelings.
じゃあ私、行くよ。大人の邪魔にならないように、いとこたちと一緒にいるから。じゃあ。
お待ちなさい。
She called Jessica, who was trying to leave and looked lonely, to stop.
何？
気遣いをありがとう。お前を残して寝込むわけにはいきません。
よせよ。縁起でもないぜ。
心配をかけました。もう大丈夫です。私は行きます。
If I let my daughter see me this feeble any longer, I'll only make her feel more uneasy. With that thought in mind, Natsui left Jessica with words of gratitude and made to depart. This time Jessica called out to her mother's back. Natsui stopped and turned around, again asking what business Jessica had with her. But Jessica herself didn't know why she had stopped her mother, and for a while she smiled wryly, muttering to herself as she hesitated over what to say. She was poking around in her pocket, and her hand touched something and took it out.
さ、母さん。私さ、今日、お守りもらったんだよ。なんだっけな。魔除けだったっけ？確かその、ドアノブにぶら下げてるといいんだっけ？
Oh no. This is going to... My money's on Battler's dad and Jessica being murdered tonight.
忘れちまっ
She's
たぜ。
given away her charm.
私が持ってても仕方ないし、母さんにあげるよ。
It was a scorpion charm that Maria had given her on the beach. Although she had heard from its various effects from Maria, Jessica's mind had gone blank, and she was just barely able to say even that much. Jessica, thinking that her mother probably wouldn't accept it anyway, immediately drew back the hand that struck out, grasping the charm. So when Natsui came to take it, she was extremely shocked.
これは何かの景品？
まあ私も多分そうだろうと思ってるけどよ。こんなおもちゃみたいなお守りじゃ、ご利益は期待できねえよな。
But her mother took the charm for where she grasped it in her hand.
ありがとう。大切にします。ジェシカには今度、私が子供の頃大切にしていたお守りを代わりにあげましょう。
別にそんなつもりで渡すんじゃないぜ。でもまあ、どうしてもって言うなら。
では、私はもう休みます。頭痛がひどいので、ジェシカもあまり夜更かしをしすぎないように。
うん。
Natsui put the charm in her pocket and turned away. She then disappeared into the dark hall.
やっぱり明日も丸一日こんな天気みたいだね。
やれやれ。今日の日中が嘘のようだぜ。
George and I were killing time in front of the parlor television. At that point, Jessica returned. Her face was blank, but it looked as though she had calmed down a little since the last we'd seen her.
マリアはまだ肖像画前？
いや、さっき戻ってきて、今はそっちのソファーで寝てるぜ。マリアにはもう遅い時間だもんな。
Looking at the clock, I saw it was a little past 10 p.m. Even if I were planning to stay up all night, it was about the time to head back to our room.
一応うちのおふくろが屋敷にも部屋を用意してくれたんだけどよ。どうする？
僕はゲストハウスに戻りたいかな。親たちの様子を見る限り、僕たちはお屋敷にいない方がいいと思う。
俺も同感だぜ。子供は邪魔せず引っ込んでろって感じみてえだからな。おとなしくそうするさ。
As we were talking about this, Aunt Rosa came into the parlor. She was looking all over restlessly, probably trying to find Maria.
ローザおばさん。マリアならそこのソファーっすよ。
ありがとう。すっかり眠っちゃってるわね。ベッドに移さないと。
よかったら僕がベッドまで背負っていきましょうか。
ありがとう。助かるわ。ジョージ君たちはゲストハウスに戻るの？それとも夏日姉さんが用意してくれた部屋に泊まるのかしら？
今話し合ってました。ゲストハウスへ戻ろうかって話になったところです。
そう。ならマリアも一緒にしてあげてもいいかしら。いとこのみんなと一緒の方がきっと安心できると思うしね。
Behind those words, she seemed to be concealing some regret that the adults, herself included, had deeply hurt Maria's feelings.
任してくださいよ、おばさん。何しろこっちにゃ、マリアをあやすことに関してはエキスパートがいるっすからね。
それは
Of course he's
僕の
talking
こと
about
か
you,
い？
George.
僕だけじゃ無理だよ。みんなでだよ。
そうだぜ。バトラだってあんなにもマリアと意気投合してふざけ合ってたじゃねえかよ。
As we said this, Aunt Rosa smiled, truly looking happy.
みんなありがとう。私たちの話し合いはだいぶ遅くまでかかりそう。だから申し訳ないけどマリアをみんなにお願いするわ。
おーい、マリア。熟睡か？ゲストハウスに戻るぞ。
Maria muttered something indistinct, rolled over, and fell back to sleep. It looked like she was sleeping deeply.
すっかり寝込んじゃったようだぜ。起こすのは悪いな。
うん。僕が背負うよ。
Maria's body was much lighter than it looked. I lifted her up and put her on George's back. It was raining hard outside, and Umineko couldn't hold an umbrella and was carrying Maria at the same time. It looked like Aunt Rosa would come with us as far as the guest house to help out. However, when she heard Uncle Krause's voice call out to her, she had no choice but to return.
困ったわね。もう戻らないと。
皆さんゲストハウスまでお戻りですか？
Shannon? After we left the hall on the way to the entrance, the door to the servant room opened up and Shannon stepped out.
だいぶ暗くなっておりますので、私がご案内させていただきます。
ちょうどよかったわ、シャノちゃん。ジョージ君がマリアをおぶっていてくれるの。傘をさしてあげてくれないかしら。
はい、かしこまりました。
Shannon brought the umbrellas for each of us and had a flashlight to guide the way. As we opened the front door, the downpour was quite terrific. Alright, I'm going to stop here, guys. Yeah, this is... the story keeps getting better. I'm interested at the dynamics between the family members. Natsume is probably one of my least favorite characters. I don't like her now, but I have a lot of sympathy for her. And I think we're going to learn like a really important backstory coming up here. for her, because it seemed like she went through some horrible stuff growing up, and it kind of made her go and marry her a-hole husband. So I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it. But yeah, guys, excited to go through this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and yeah, we'll be moving through this pretty quickly.